Yo, what's good everyone? Let's talk some football here today. I'm going to be breaking down this Week 3 Draftkings Thursday Night Showdown slate between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. Should be quite the barn burner. I'm going to go through some of my favorite captain plays for this game, as well as talk about some of my favorite flex plays, and then to wrap up the video, we're going to take a look back at the Week 2 snaps from both of these teams, showing you who's on the field a lot and who's got their ass on the bench. With that being said, let's dive into this spreadsheet here. Alright, so we're going to kick things off here in the spreadsheet like we always do in the top left-hand corner with those Vegas odds. You can see the Browns are playing at home here and favored to win, sitting on a money line of minus 190, and they're 4.5 point favorites. And as I mentioned in the intro, this should be quite the barn burner between these two teams, with the over-under currently sitting at 38 points. Now I got these 6 Showdown stats from 2021 listed behind me as well. You can use those as a reference point. And let me hop on over to this other sheet here. If you want to take a minute, pause the video and read through these, or even feel free to screenshot them. With that being said, let's dive into some of my favorite plays here for this Showdown slate. We're going to kick it off with the captains like we always do. And for those of you who are new to this channel, or at least new to these Showdown videos, what I always do is highlight one player from both sides of this game. So on the Steelers side of things, I like Diontae Johnson in the captain spot here on Thursday night. He's the clear-cut #1 pass catcher in this offense, and we've seen that throughout the first 2 weeks here for the Steelers, seeing a 31.5% target share and damn near 40% of the team's air yards. And although the Steelers have only scored 2 offensive touchdowns throughout the first 2 weeks, it's good to see him getting that volume and opportunity. And I'm looking at the projections here at both FTN and Numberfire, and no other player is projected for more targets, receptions, or receiving yards outside of Diontae Johnson on either side of this game. Another reason why I like him in the captain spot. Now on the Cleveland side of things, I think there's a few different ways that we could go in the captain spot, and actually I'm going to put this in here right now. On the Steelers side of things, I do think that Pat Freiermuth is also a guy that we could consider, so I'm just going to put that as a captain consideration there before I forget later in the video. But on the Cleveland side of things, I think there's a number of different ways that we could go. I thought Hunt was just a little too cheap here on this Thursday Night Showdown slate. He's averaging around 15 opportunities so far throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, getting involved in both the rushing game and the passing game, so I do like that. Clearly the passing down back compared to Nick Chubb in this Cleveland offense, and he's seen 6 of those opportunities come in the red zone compared to 8 for Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb does have the lead there, but it's a very marginal lead to say the least. And look, I just look at this game script here in general. It could be a game where Cleveland gets out to an early lead and then they just hammer the rock by running as much as possible in the second half, and especially in the fourth quarter, to where we could legit play both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the same lineup. Now before we dive into some of my favorite flex plays here, just want to take a quick minute to talk about one of the sponsors on this channel, Lucra. If you have not downloaded Lucra, it is completely free to get started. I'm actually going to throw a QR code up on the screen here right now. You can scan this with your phone. It's going to download the app, and once it does that, it's going to give you my referral code, which is GRIFF, GRIFF, and give you $25 in free play money. Now you can use that free play money to compete against anybody, friends, family, or someone random, and if you win those contests, you'll actually see that free play money convert to real cash. So if you win enough of your contests with that free play money, you might legit never have to deposit a single dollar on Lucra. You can just build a bankroll from there. So again, I'll throw that QR code up on the screen one more time. You can scan this with your phone here. It'll download the app, include my referral code GRIFF, GRIFF, and give you that $25 in free play money. All right, now diving into those flex plays, you'll notice first guy I got here is Nick Chubb. I think he's a captain consideration as well, and I just mentioned this with Kareem Hunt. I legit think we can play both of these guys in the same Showdown lineup. Now, it could be a scenario where both these guys get 15, 20-plus opportunities in this game, which is kind of what we've seen throughout the first 2 weeks in this Cleveland offense. Again, Kareem Hunt averaging around 15 opportunities, and you can see in the notes off to the right-hand side for Nick Chubb, averaging around 20-plus opportunities. opportunities. Now, he doesn't get involved in the passing game as much as Kareem Hunt. You can see he's only got 4 targets throughout the first 2 weeks. But if the volume is there, if Cleveland does get out to an early lead, they're definitely going to hammer the rock in the second half in this game. So Nick Chubb is volume dependent, but based on the game script we're kind of looking at here right now, it is working in his favor to where he could see a lot of opportunity, and again, to where both him and Hunt could see enough touches in this game to where they both meet or exceed value. And then I got Amari Cooper there of the Cleveland Browns, and I think he's a captain consideration as well. If I'm going to play anybody on the passing side of this Cleveland offense, it certainly is Amari Cooper. He kind of had a rough week 1, but got back on track in week 2 or last week against the New York Jets, where he finished with 10 targets, 101 receiving yards, and scored a touchdown in that game. He also leads the team with a 26% target share throughout the first 2 weeks as well. And while these Steelers cornerbacks are solid, I wouldn't consider them elite. Amari Cooper is going to win the matchups at times for sure. It's just whether or not Jacoby Brissett can get him the ball, and an accurate ball at that. And speaking of Jacoby Brissett, I do have him listed on the spreadsheet here, but obviously a gross situation with the quarterbacks here on Thursday night. I'm not really thrilled to play Brissett or Mitch Trubisky, but both are very cheap and easy to fit within your lineups. And I go back to a statistic from 2020 when it came down to showdowns. 92% of people who played showdown lineups rostered a quarterback. But of the top 1% of showdown lineups from that year, 96% had a quarterback rostered. I guess this game could fit in that 4% margin that didn't have a quarterback rostered, but I foresee us needing to roster one of these guys. Again, I give the edge to Brissett, even though I don't love it. Trubisky's been brutal throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, and the Steelers aren't going to have TJ Watt again this week. They didn't have him last week, and they created very little pressure against the Patriots and ended up with 0 sacks. So yeah, again, give me the Cleveland quarterback over a brutal Mitch Trubisky. Now, I kind of name-dropped this next guy here a little bit earlier. Pat Freiermuth, tight end of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think we can consider him in the captain spot as well. He's been the clear-cut number 2 pass catcher in this Steelers offense throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, seeing close to 24.5% target share behind Deontay Johnson. And he also leads the team in red zone targets, albeit it's just been 2. They are going to utilize him once they get in the red zone and towards the goal line as well. And looking back to last week, Ty Conklin of the New York Jets played pretty well against this Cleveland defense, had 6 catches in that game for 40 yards, racking up 10 Draftkings points. And the week before that, it was Ian Thomas, who only had 2 catches for the Panthers, but had 53 yards in that game. And Pat Freiermuth is clearly better than both Ty Conklin and Ian Thomas, and very well could have a nice night against this defense. Now, if you want to throw a dart on a guy, I kind of like George Pickens this week at $4,800. He's very cheap and doesn't need much to meet value, but he also hasn't been targeted much throughout the first 2 weeks as well, and he actually voiced his opinion about that in the media. I believe it was either this morning or yesterday, saying that he's not getting the ball enough. Do with that information as you please. I don't know if Mike Tomlin is going to respond positively to that. He usually doesn't, but for a guy who's only got 6 targets and less than a 9% target share, I understand why he is frustrated, because he's playing damn near every single snap. So yeah, it is a dart throw here, but I don't mind George Pickens here at $4,800. Now folks, if you're still with me here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. I got a lot more football content coming your way this year, and for those of you who play NHL DFS or into hockey betting, I got a lot of content coming out for that this year as well. So like and subscribe, everyone. I appreciate you all. Let's get back into the spreadsheet. Now, getting back to the Cleveland side of things here, I wanted to highlight their tight end, Harrison Bryant. I think David Njoku is fine as well, and I'm going to go through the numbers here and kind of show you why I think both these guys are in play. So Bryant has out-targeted and outperformed Njoku throughout the first 2 games of this season, with 5 catches and 63 receiving yards, compared to Njoku's 4 catches for 39 receiving yards. Bryant seeing a 32% target share when he is on the field, but he's only playing about 47% of the offensive snaps. Now, if that goes up and the target share remains the same, he's going to be a smash play here at $4,600. But going back to Njoku, you can see there, he's playing about 91% of the offensive snaps. So Njoku is on the field more, but Bryant's done more with the limited time that he's had. So like I said, both of these guys are in play, and if you're looking to get really contrarian with your lineup, you could roster both of them. I then got both kickers listed on the spreadsheet here. Notoriously, that is not something I like to do, but considering the over-under is only at 38 points for this game, I think it's a situation where we could definitely play either one of them and maybe even both kickers if it ends up being a very low-scoring game. Cade York's been good for the Cleveland Browns here throughout the first 2 weeks. He's 5 for 5 in field goals, 5 for 6 in extra points, and the Steelers do rank 6th in red zone conversion rate, around 37.5%, which could lead to Cleveland kicking the ball a little bit more once they get down in the red zone. Now for Chris Boswell here, he's an OG. This is a guy that can definitely get double-digit Draftkings points, one of the most consistent kickers in the NFL. Now I do want to point out here that this Cleveland defense has allowed a 71.5% red zone conversion rate, which is significantly worse than the Steelers defense. But then I look at the stats and go, oh, the Steelers offense have only scored 2 offensive touchdowns throughout the first 2 weeks, which makes me like Chris Boswell again. And then last but certainly not least, I got the Browns defense playing at home. Again, this comes down to the game script here. Such a low implied total. Could be a defensive battle back and forth. And look, Trubisky has only been pressured the 18th most of quarterbacks so far this season, so not horrible by any means. Yet he already has 8 turnover-worthy plays, so averaging about 4 per game. And this Browns defensive line should definitely be able to get after this offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who rank towards the bottom of the NFL. And a little statistic I found here, Myles Garrett is just 1 sack away from becoming the Cleveland franchise leader in sacks. My guess is he gets there on Thursday night and might even rack up multiple sacks. And then to wrap up this video here, we're going to take a look at the snap counts from week 2 for both of these teams. Again, showing you who's playing a lot and who isn't playing as much. You can see all 3 wide receivers here for the Steelers are getting a lot of opportunity, but for example, we can use these stats here, going back to George Pickens in the spreadsheet. Only seen 6 targets throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, less than a 9% target share. But he's basically playing as much as Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool and basically running the same amount of routes. So he's likely bound to have a big game sooner than later. So that's what I like to look at here with these snap counts. But again, it just comes down to who's playing a lot and who's really sitting on the bench. And then we got the Cleveland snap count here. Really what I want to focus in on is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I talked about both those guys quite a bit in the spreadsheet here today and even mentioned we can play both of them in the same showdown lineup. You can see the opportunity for both these guys is pretty much the same. They're getting about the same amount of snaps, running the same amount of routes. Nick Chubb does get a few more carries and actually out-targeted Kareem Hunt last week. I don't foresee that being a trend going forward, but needless to say, both these guys are getting a fair amount of opportunity. And again, if Cleveland gets out to an early lead in this game, I think they're going to lean on those 2 guys even more here in week 3. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's enjoy this Thursday night football game here, folks. Let's win a little money as well. In the meantime, I'm out of here.